You know, in this life, there's a very simple truth that I've learned that I've come to realize is hard for many of us to deal with. And that truth is this: life goes on. I was reminded of that this past week in two situations. Last week, I had a chance to be a part of a funeral. And due to COVID restrictions and everything going on in this world, there were a total of 6 people there. Funerals are something that I think are super important to be a part of. In fact, I tell people all the time, I'll do funerals any day of the week because you're in the middle of it with people. You're right there when things go bad. And obviously, there's the loss of a loved one when we're talking about a funeral. And so I was in this situation, and there were 6 of us, including myself, 6 of us in this place. And they've just had this momentous thing happen to them, and they're grieving and they're sad and they're trying to deal with it the best way they possibly can. And I stood there and I mourned with the family and I cried with the family. And then I got in my car and I left. As I got on the road, it dawned on me once again what I tell people in funeral situations and the loss of a loved one situation. The hardest part is not necessarily the week that you're going through all of it. That's very difficult. But in that week, you have friends around you, you have family around you, you have loved ones that are there with you. And then that week ends, and the reality of life is most of those people have to go back to what it was that they were doing before. And you get to the week after, you get to week 2, you get to week 3, you get to week 4, and you realize this simple truth: life goes on. As I was on the road driving away from that funeral, I looked around me at all the other cars on the road with me, and I went, you know what? There isn't a single person around me that knows that that family is going through that situation right now. And yet it made me think then, what are all of these people going through right now? What are they dealing with? Because I'm completely oblivious and unaware that their life might have just been turned upside down. And then we watched the inauguration happen literally the day after I did this funeral. And there were people that were sitting there thinking there was an event that was going to happen, that something big was going to take place, and then nothing happened. Joe Biden put his hand on a Bible from the 1800s, and he made a vow that he would do the very best he possibly can to be president of the United States. And there were some that were jumping up and down, and it was a momentous occasion, and history was being made, and it was exciting. And there were others that were grieving and mourning, wondering, did everything I hear leading up to this, did everything I buy into let me down? Was it a lie? Was there even any truth in it whatsoever? And some people were on a high, and some people were on a low, and some people's lives literally were destroyed this past week through all sorts of different situations and circumstances. And for the most part, the rest of the world had no idea. And life goes on. And see, that's what's difficult for each of us. The reality that there will be something that will rock our world to a point where it will shatter everything that we've known, everything that we understand, a loss of a loved one, or something that we put all of our belief into that doesn't come to fruition. There will be a moment where our world will be completely shattered. And most of the world will have no idea. And that's a real hard concept when I'm the center of my own universe, because I want to sit there going, world, why don't you see me? Why don't you understand? Why don't you care? And that's where we can step into the situation. See, I believe our responsibility is then to be there for people when those things happen and care. So how about you right now? Maybe you're in a situation where your life has been completely shattered and nobody's noticing. And the hard truth that life goes on has hit really deep this week. Or maybe you're in a place where you've noticed and you're wondering, what do I do? How do I care? How do I respond? Well, I want to share this simple truth with you. In both of those situations, wherever you're at, whatever you're going through, I want to throw this verse at you. Matthew 7, verse 12 says this: "So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets." In everything, in every situation, do unto others what you would want them to do to you. See, many of us know this as the golden rule. In our time, it's something that we've taught our kids for many years. And yet in its time, when it was first spoken by Jesus, it was revolutionary. In fact, I think in many regards today, it's revolutionary once again. What if we actually lived by the golden rule? that in everything, in all of our situations, in the ups and the downs, we treated people the way that we wanted to be treated. And we saw others and we saw what they're going through and we helped them through it, even in times where I'm going through tough situations. My challenge is this week, let's apply that to our lives and do it. Because there may be people around you right now. You may be one of those individuals whose whole world has been shook upside down. So what do we do about it? Well, let's treat them the way that we'd want to be treated. So see others this week. Step into their life. Open up your eyes. Understand that everybody in the cars around you, everybody in the aisles in the stores next to you, everybody wherever you may go is going through something. So let's step into their lives and say, hey, how can I care for you today the way that I'd want to be cared for? Let's make that our challenge this week and see what happens. See you next week.